Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
In the shadow of the glimmering spires of Celestia Prime, tensions brewed among the stars. The peaceful facade of human and alien coexistence masked the undercurrents of betrayal and rivalry. Captain Kofi Adam navigated the sleek lines of his ship, the Valiant, through the bustling space lanes, ready to intercept diplomatic reports about the alien delegations from the Zinter race. Kofi's brow furrowed as he mulled over the latest intelligence. Fragile alliances were forming, but they were overshadowed by whispers of a rogue faction within the Zinter, defiant against the tenuous peace. He clenched his jaw, hoping that the upcoming summit would not merely be a facade for a trap. As he entered a controlled orbit above the Zinter capital, a flicker on his sensors broke through his thoughts. A distress signal, faint at first but growing in urgency, blared across his console. Instinct kicked in. Red alert. Engage thrusters. He commanded, heart racing. The urgency in his voice resonated as he adjusted the Valiant's trajectory, spiraling down toward the source of the signal. Kofi recognized the encrypted code from the Zinter royal family. The implications were staggering. The princess must be in danger. As he descended through the atmosphere, a brilliant explosion illuminated the sky. A cascade of fire and smoke swallowed a diplomatic craft, sending shards of metal raining into the lush green forests below. The sight felt like a dagger to his heart. With a surge of adrenaline, he maneuvered the Valiant closer, scanning for survivors or hostiles amid the chaos. His ship's sensors identified multiple energy signatures surrounding the wreckage. A swath of armed Zinter rebels, their battle armor gleaming menacingly in the smoke-laden air. Kofi's breath steadied as he activated the ship's weapon system. "Time to save the day," he muttered under his breath, a mix of determination and apprehension coursing through him. With a deft flick of his wrist, he unleashed a volley of concussive rounds, scattering the rebels and silencing their assault. Just as he thought he had gained the upper hand, a piercing scream echoed, a frantic cry from the wreckage. Kofi's heart skipped a beat as he caught a glimpse of a figure trapped within the remnants of the shattered ship. It was her. Princess Nia Zuri, resplendent even in turmoil, struggled against twisted metal, her green skin glistening in the light filtering through the smoke. Her eyes, fierce yet filled with desperation, locked onto his. The strength that radiated from her seemed to beckon him forward. "Hold on, Your Highness," he shouted, cutting the ship's engines as he swooped in, utilizing the loading bay's opening to create a makeshift ramp. "I'm coming for you." Kofi leaped down into the wreckage, a flurry of debris and acrid smoke swirling around him. The chaos melded into a singular focus, the princess. He could hear the cries of the injured Zinter citizens, but all that mattered was her. "Captain, hurry," she urged, her voice strained but laced with the steadiness of a leader. As he pushed aside a twisted beam, he grasped her wrist firmly, feeling a surge of energy pass between them. The moment their skin touched, time seemed to stretch. With a powerful tug, Kofi freed her from the remnants of the ship, holding her close as he made a sprint back toward the Valiant. But just as they reached the ship's entrance, an explosion rocked the ground nearby, knocking them off their feet. Kofi shielded Nia beneath him, the force of the blast pressing them both into the metallic ground. Distant shouts of the remaining rebels echoed in his ears, but all he could focus on was her steady breaths, the ethereal glow of her skin under the fiery twilight, and the way her presence made the world fall away. "Get up," she urged, her voice a mix of breathless urgency and unwavering resolve. "We have to go now." Kofi pushed himself up, yanking her along, their hands still clasped tightly together. The cockpit door slid open, and the warmth of the interior enveloped them as they stumbled inside. A hail of laser fire sang through the air, narrowly missing them, sending sizzling sparks against the hull. "Secure the hatch," Kofi commanded, adrenaline coursing through his veins. With one last glance back at the chaos they were leaving behind, the cockpit engulfed them in a last shimmer of safety. As he prepared to pilot the Valiant into the stars, Kofi glanced at the princess, who stood beside him, her resolve unwavering. In that moment, before she emerged into his life, moments before her death was averted, he knew they were bound by fate. Their journey, unpredictable and fraught, had just begun. The stars blinked down on the Valiant as it broke through the atmosphere, escaping the chaos below. Inside the ship, the tension of battle began to dissipate, replaced by an electric silence that resonated within the cockpit. Kofi's hands trembled slightly as he set the course for a safe distance away from the Zenta capital, his mind racing with the weight of the moment they had just shared. Nia Zuri leaned against the wall, catching her breath. The fire from the explosions outside had not dimmed the radiant beauty that possessed her. If anything, it intensified her otherworldly allure. The remnants of her royal attire hung in tatters, but the dignified way she held herself spoke of a strength far beyond her appearance. "Thank you, Kofi," she finally spoke, her voice steady but softened by exhaustion. "You saved my life. I owe you a great debt." Kofi turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze. "We're not out of danger yet. That was only the first wave," he replied, the gravity of their situation refocusing his thoughts. "We need to get to a secure location before the rebellion finds us." "Where do we even go?" Nia asked, pushing back a strain of inky black hair from her face, revealing sharp cheekbones and deep-set eyes filled with fire. "My people will be searching for me, and yours may perceive this as an invasion." A knot formed in Kofi's stomach at the thought. "There's a barren planet nearby, Leona V. It was deemed uninhabitable and is rarely monitored. We can hide there until we figure out our next move." Nia nodded, her expression shifting to one of determination. "Lead the way, Captain." As Kofi engaged the hyperdrive, their surroundings blurred into streaks of light. He couldn't help but glance at Nia again. In the aftermath of their escape, with vulnerability hanging in the air, he found himself captivated by her strength. It was as if she carried the weight of her entire race upon her shoulders, and yet remained unyielded. Hours passed as they made their way to Leona V. They exchanged pleasantries, stories of childhood, family, and aspirations. Kofi shared tales of Earth, a distant planet filled with sprawling cities and uncharted mountains. Nia spoke of the lush landscapes and vibrant celebrations of her homeworld, weaving vivid images of life among her people. The barriers of their different worlds began to blur, revealing shared dreams and struggles. Once they landed on Leona V, Kofi secured the Valiant in a hidden valley, surrounded by rocky outcrops and thick canopies. The planet was desolate, with stretches of dust and sparse vegetation. It felt lifeless, yet it shielded them from the external chaos. "Let's set up a shelter. We should prepare for a few days here until we assess our options," Kofi suggested, glancing at Nia, who was surveying their surroundings with keen interest. "Very well," she replied, the flicker of excitement in her eyes contrasting with the lingering shadows of fear. "But first, we need to address our injuries." Kofi looked at her, realizing only then how badly they both bore the marks of their harrowing escape. Nia's arm bore a burn from the explosion, while his side ached from the fall. Together, they set to work, using supplies from the Valiant to create makeshift bandages and salves. As they tended to one another, silence settled between them, filled only by the sound of the wind rustling through the barren terrain. Kofi couldn't ignore the sensation stirring in his chest as he applied a salve to Nia's arm, their skin brushing as they moved. She looked at him, those vibrant eyes locking onto his as the silence stretched. "What do you think will happen now?" Nia asked, her voice softer, vulnerable. Kofi hesitated, the weight of reality creeping back in. "We may need to join forces. Your people and mine. We can't continue living in the shadows of war." Nia's laughter surprised him, light yet edged with sorrow. "Hope is a rare thing, Kofi. For my people, alliances have never been easy. They see you as an intruder, and my people see your kind as a threat," Kofi admitted, dropping his gaze. The stark reality of their situation was harsh, but he felt a pang of determination within him. "But maybe that can change, starting with us." Nia studied him, a smile creeping onto her lips. "Perhaps our bond can be the catalyst for our peoples to find common ground. It's easy to hate an enemy one does not understand." Kofi nodded, inspired by her insight. They were worlds apart, yet had intertwined destinies. He felt a familiar spark between them, a connection that grew deeper with each passing moment. As darkness enveloped the barren landscape, Kofi and Nia settled by a modest fire they built. He watched as the flames danced, illuminating her features and casting shadows that mirrored the uncertainty ahead. With the night stretching before them, they talked and shared fears, hopes, and dreams until exhaustion pulled them both into a peaceful sleep, side by side. The weight of their past journeys hung in the air, but as Kofi lay beside Nia, he understood that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Morning light filtered through the remnants of the rocky outcrops, casting a warm glow across the barren landscape of Leona V. Kofi stirred from sleep, the soft crackling of the fire awakening him. He turned toward Nia, who was already up, her silhouette framed against the rising sun, a picture of ethereal elegance even in the simplicity of their surroundings. "Good morning," Kofi said, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Good morning, Kofi," she replied, her voice melodic as it danced through the crisp air. "I was just thinking about the way your people celebrate life. You spoke of festivals filled with music and dance." Kofi smiled, the memory bringing warmth to his heart. "Yes, music is a language of its own. It brings us together, transcending barriers. We cherish moments of joy and remembrance during those festivals." Nia turned to him, curiosity igniting in her eyes. "Tell me more," she urged, taking a seat across from him, her legs folded gracefully beneath her. Kofi took a deep breath, recalling a vibrant festival on Earth where joy mingled with reverence. "There's one, called the Festival of Lights, where families gather to honor lives that have passed, but also to celebrate those who remain. We light lanterns, and as the sky fills with colors, it signifies hope and renewal." "Sounds beautiful," she mused, tilting her head. "We, too, have ceremonies for our ancestors, though our rituals differ. On Lamaria, the night of stars, we honor those who guide us from the beyond. We gather around a great fire and share tales, stories of bravery and wisdom. It strengthens our community." Kofi could see the glow in her eyes as she spoke, and it filled him with admiration. "How do you choose which story to share?" he inquired, genuinely interested. Nia smiled wider, her confidence blooming as she recalled her traditions. "Usually, we speak of our heroes. My grandmother often told the story of a warrior who, against all odds, united our tribes in a time of great peril. Her courage inspired generations." At that moment, as she recounted her heritage, Kofi felt the weight of the cultural divide between them begin to lift. They were not just two individuals from opposing worlds, but were also the carriers of rich legacies. "I'd love to hear that story one day," Kofi said sincerely, wishing to understand more of her culture as they navigated their entwined future. "Perhaps I'll tell you tonight by the fire," Nia suggested, a playful glint in her eyes. "But you must share one of your own in return." "Deal," he replied with a smile, feeling a warmth bloom in his chest. The morning unfolded into shared laughter and tales, with Kofi showcasing his culinary skills by preparing a simple breakfast he salvaged from the ship, mixing the foreign tastes of Zinter spices with human recipes. They worked together, finding joy in the culinary dance, a fusion of their worlds coming to life in their makeshift kitchen. After the meal, Kofi decided it was time to become proactive about their situation. "I need to scout the area," he stated. "We should familiarize ourselves with the surroundings and look for potential resources." Nia nodded, her expression turning serious. "I'll come with you. I can project energy for protection, and I'm not worried about this desolate place." Kofi hesitated for a moment. The barren terrains could be treacherous, and he was concerned for her safety. "Are you sure? This might turn dangerous." "I've faced danger before, Captain. Additionally, you're not the only one capable of handling a fight," she replied, fire igniting in her words. With an accepting nod, Kofi acknowledged her resolve. They set off, traversing the rocky expanse, their footsteps echoing against the barren ground. The landscape was strangely beautiful, imbued with shades of ochre and brown, a beauty that came from the resilience of survival. As they walked, they glanced toward a distant ridge, where movement caught Kofi's eye. "Did you see that?" Kofi whispered, slowing down. Nia squinted against the brightness. "It's probably just an animal." Suddenly, a creature burst forth, a sleek figure, laced with vibrant colors, darting across their path. It was a Zinther wildlife, a small creature native to the planet. "It's beautiful," Nia said, taking a step closer, her gaze laser-focused on the creature. Kofi edged behind her, allowing her to take the lead. They stood silent, captivated by the little being, its shimmering eyes glimmering in the sun. As they approached, the creature twirled, revealing a plumed tail, which wrapped around a tree branch, currently bearing colorful fruits. "Are they edible?" Kofi asked, curiosity piqued. Nia grinned, her innate confidence shining through. "Yes, but let's be careful. They might be guardian spirits. Zinther lore warns not to take from their haunts without gratitude." Kofi laughed, charmed by how her cultural beliefs colored her experiences. "Should we express our gratitude then?" Nia nodded sincerely, and they both bowed their heads slightly, whispering silent words of reverence before carefully harvesting a few of the fruits, gathering an impromptu snack. As they munched, the surrounding world circled within them. In those moments, their barriers continued to dissolve, weaving threads of understanding, respect, and perhaps something deeper simmering beneath the surface. As dusk brushed against the horizon, they returned to their temporary enclave. Kofi could feel the pull of the unknown growing stronger, the excitement of their time together. He knew the bond forming was not simply friendship. It was an intricate dance of fate, love, and unity. That night, as promised, they fell into their cultural exchange beside the fire. Kofi shared stories from Earth, of ancient warriors, legends of unbreakable bonds, and Herculean feats of courage. Nia listened intently, her awe fueling the midnight air. Finally, as the stars adorned the velvet sky, Nia began her tale of the warrior who united her tribes from despair, her voice enveloping him like silk. In those moments there, under a canopy of stars and the flickering fire, a deep understanding grew, challenging them both to seek a future beyond the shadows. The sun rose over Leona V, casting vibrant hues across the desolate landscape. Kofi and Nia awoke refreshed, the warmth of the previous night's stories still resonating in the air. They shared a brief breakfast of the colorful fruits they had collected, laughter spilling between them as they tried to identify the flavors, some sweet, some tart, and others unexpectedly spicy. "Your turn to lead the expedition today," Kofi teased her, pointing to the remnants of their makeshift shelter. "After all, you've grown fond of scouting, haven't you?" "Absolutely," Nia replied, a mischievous grin on her lips. "And I promise not to get us lost this time." They shared a chuckle that faded into a moment of contemplation. The previous day had brought them closer, but challenges loomed just beyond their horizon. They had to plan their next steps carefully, especially as the threat of pursuers lingered in the depths of space, hunting them both. Once they gathered their supplies, they set out to explore an area slightly farther from the valley, venturing beyond the initial ridge. The rocky terrain gave way to formations that seemed to hum with energy, vibrant flora sprouting from cracks and crevices that caught their attention. "Look at this," Nia said, kneeling to examine a peculiar plant. Its petals glistened like shards of glass, reflecting the morning light. "It's remarkable how life can thrive in this harsh environment." Kofi crouched beside her, sharing in her awe. "It reminds me of the resilience of people, surviving against all odds." As they explored together, Kofi noticed a shift in Nia's demeanor. Moments of quiet reverence were punctuated by reflections on their identities. "Tell me, Kofi, what do you fear most?" Nia asked, her gaze serious as shadows shifted across her face. Kofi was taken aback by the intensity of her question. He hesitated, his instincts warning him to shield his vulnerabilities. "I fear failure," he admitted slowly, looking into her earnest eyes. "Failure to protect those I care about, and to bring about change in a world divided." Nia nodded, her expression contemplative. "We share that fear. The responsibility of leadership can weigh heavily, but sometimes accepting our vulnerabilities can make us stronger." "True," Kofi replied, encouraged by her understanding. "It's about finding strength in unity, forging alliances, and confronting challenges together." Their connection deepened in that moment, But the tranquility of their newfound camaraderie was abruptly shattered by a low rumble echoing through the valley. What was that? Nia's expression shifted instantly to one of caution. "Stay close," Kofi murmured, instinctually positioning himself between her and the ominous sounds. As they advanced cautiously, the ground trembled beneath them, sending cascading rocks tumbling from a nearby cliff face. Ahead, a band of Zinther rebels emerged from the shadows, wielding weapons glinting menacingly in the sunlight. They charged toward Kofi and Nia, their shouts echoing in a language Kofi couldn't fully comprehend, but the intent was clear. They were not friendly. Kofi's instincts kicked in. "Run, Nia," he urged, taking a defensive stance, adrenaline pulsing through his veins like fire. Instead of fleeing, Nia remained rooted by his side, projecting an aura of energy around them. "We must stand together," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. Kofi felt a rush of warmth as her energy encircled them, lending him a strength he didn't know he possessed. "Focus on me," he said, feeling the surge of power synchronize between them. Together, they unleashed a defensive shield that absorbed the initial onslaught of laser fire. The rebels, caught off guard by their united front, shifted tactics. Kofi moved in tandem with Nia, instincts guiding them as they fought back. Kofi's training and reflexes met Nia's ethereal abilities. They dodged, parried, and retaliated, creating a rhythm of cooperation built on instinct and trust. "Watch my back," Kofi shouted as he moved to flank the rebels, sensing their vulnerability. Nia responded without hesitation, her energy coiling around him as a protective barrier, allowing him to take strategic shots. In those chaotic moments, Kofi felt the undeniable bond between them deepen. They operated as one, understanding each other's movements as if they were two halves of a greater whole. But even with their combined strength, the rebels outnumbered them. A sudden blast grazed Kofi's shoulder, sending him sprawling to the ground. Pain shot through him, igniting the urgency to get back up. "Kofi," Nia cried, fear echoing in her voice. "I'm fine," he barked, forcing himself upright despite the pain. He quickly scanned for an exit, a way to escape this trap. But the rebels were gaining ground, and Kofi sensed the pressing weight of failure creeping in. "We need a plan," he shouted, adrenaline surging through him. Nia nodded, a fierce determination spreading across her features. "We'll use the terrain to our advantage," she declared, pointing toward an overhanging rock formation that could provide them cover. "On three," Kofi said, counting in his head. 1, 2, 3. They dashed toward the rocky outcrop as Kofi covered Nia, dodging bolts of energy that singed the ground around them. They managed to reach the sparse safety of the rocks, but the shouts of rebel warriors echoed around them, their enraged voices drawing closer. "Nia, can you create a diversion?" Kofi asked, breaths heavy as they crouched low behind the boulders. "Yes, but I need you to trust me," she replied, her face fierce. "Always," he reaffirmed, knowing that this reliance would determine their survival. Nia focused her energy, channeling her powers not just as a weapon, but as a beacon of connection. The air around them shimmered, bending with her force. As the rebels approached the rock formation, Nia released a blast of dazzling light that arced over the ridge, sparkling like a cascade of fireworks. The rebels were momentarily stunned, and Kofi seized the opportunity. "Now," he shouted, rushing out from their cover to engage the confused enemy. Drawing on all his training, Kofi fought with a newfound ferocity. The moment of unity with Nia empowered him beyond his limits. Together, they maneuvered through the chaos, their combined energy creating a formidable force that sent the rebels reeling. As the troops began to scatter, Kofi and Nia pressed the advantage, driving them away from their makeshift sanctuary. When the last rebel fell, Kofi found himself staring across the battlefield at Nia, breathing heavily, chest heaving with the aftershock of adrenaline. She staggered toward him, relief washing over her features. "We did it." "Together," Kofi echoed, his heart pounding not just from the exertion, but from the realization of how far they had come. They stood at the brink of a new understanding, a bond formed in the crucible of chaos. As they caught their breath, the gravity of what they'd accomplished began to sink in. "We might have just changed our fates," Nia said softly, her gaze locking onto his with certainty. "But we are only at the beginning," Kofi replied, determination igniting within him. "And there are still challenges we need to face. Together." With a newfound resolve, they began their journey back to the Valiant, fully aware that their path forward would be filled with trials, but with each stride, they knew they would face it hand in hand. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the rocky expanse of Leona V. Kofi and Nia returned to the Valiant after their furious skirmish with the rebels, adrenaline still rushing through their veins. As they approached the ship, Kofi couldn't shake the weight they now carried. Not just the scars of battle, but the bond that had formed beneath the pressure of shared adversity. Once inside the cockpit, Kofi took the helm while Nia paced, running her hands over the controls, a faraway look in her eyes. "I didn't realize how close we were to being overwhelmed," she said quietly, her tone tinged with both fear and a bubbling sense of exhilaration. "We fought them off, Nia." "You held your ground," Kofi replied, glancing at her beneath furrowed brows. "You're incredible." A faint blush crept over her cheeks, and she looked away, touching the spot where the energy had pooled around her. It felt as if our energy was intertwined. "It's a strength I've never felt before, but I still worry about what's to come." Kofi's gaze hardened. "We need to prepare for their return. They won't give up easily after losing their advantage." Nia nodded solemnly, the realization of their situation settling in. "We need allies. If we're to confront the rogue faction, we must draw upon both our people's strengths." Kofi's heart swelled at her determination, but he couldn't silence the doubts lingering in his mind. How do we convince our people to unite? They've been taught that each other's races are threats, not allies. "Then we need to show them otherwise," Nia replied defiantly. "We share a common goal, peace. We can't let fear rule our destinies. The rebels won't stop until they're eliminated, and our worlds will only continue to suffer." Her resolve weighed heavily on him, igniting the spark of hope that had dimmed during the dark night of uncertainty. "Then we must act quickly." Kofi activated the comm system, sending out a distress signal, detailing their situation and calling for a diplomatic meeting at an agreed rendezvous point. "I'll reach out to the captain of the nearest Earth fleet. If the call can reach them, we can organize a council with your leaders as well." "Good," Nia said, a flicker of hope igniting in her gaze. "But we must also prepare for the possibility that they might reject our proposals." Kofi turned to her, his resolve solidifying. "We'll present the evidence of their ill intentions. They need to see the threat clearly." With the plan set, they began gathering information on the situation. The data from the Valiant would paint a clearer picture of the rebels' movements, but Kofi also knew they needed to confront their fears and the strained relations between their races head-on. "Before we reach out, can I show you something?" Nia asked, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and excitement. "Sure, what do you have in mind?" Kofi replied, his curiosity piqued. As they secured the ship for their journey, Nia led Kofi to a hidden setting at the back of the vessel, a small room filled with artifacts of her people. Crystals shimmered on the shelves, representing the energy of her home world, while scrolls outlined the history of the Zinter lineage. "These artifacts carry the essence of our ancestors," she explained, her fingers gliding over a crystal orb. "They embody our hopes and dreams. Can we harness their energy?" Kofi asked, intrigued by the possibility. "We can try," Nia said, her face lighting with excitement. "With our connected power, we might amplify the strength we showed against the rebels." They began to merge their energies, drawing upon the crystals and their innate abilities. The room filled with a dazzling light, resonating with warmth as the two worked together, forming a bond that felt unbreakable. As they focused, their surroundings faded into white, and for a moment, it was as if they were standing in the heart of a great cosmic dance. The energy enveloped them, infusing their beings with a deeper understanding and strength, an understanding that they were destined to fight together for what mattered most. But the moment was abruptly shattered as the ship's alarms blared, signaling an incoming threat. "Kofi, we need to move," Nia yelled, her heart racing as she spun to the controls, her instincts kicking in. Kofi's gaze locked onto the radar, where multiple pulses of energy surged toward them. "They found us," He grimaced, fingers flying across the buttons to activate defense protocols. Prepare for an attack. Nia took her position at his side, drawing upon the energy they had just cultivated. We have to fend them off until we can get out of here. As the rebels filled the screen, determination coursed through Kofi's veins like wildfire. Adrenaline surged as he took the ship into a defensive stance, weaving in and out of incoming fire. Nia focused her energy into a palpable force, nudging the ship's trajectory into evasive maneuvers. Steady, Kofi shouted as their ship rocked from a near miss. The chaos of battle drew them closer, a tightness coiling in Kofi's chest as he maneuvered the Valiant with precision. Together, he called, feeling Nia's energy radiate beside him, permeating the ship's systems as if it was an extension of themselves. They engaged the rebels, firing volleys that intertwined with Nia's projected shields, an unseen synchrony between them that felt almost instinctual. Battle cries echoed through the comm system as Kofi launched counterattacks, feeling empowered by their unity. Suddenly, an enemy vessel broke through their defenses. They've breached our outer shields. Kofi yelled, quickly analyzing their remaining resources. We may lose control if they board. Nia's expression sharpened, realizing the urgency of the situation. We can't let them take the Valiant. As the rebels assaulted the ship, their weight crashing into the hull, Kofi and Nia prepared for hand-to-hand combat. The moment the door burst open, Kofi felt the air shift around them, a frenetic energy that amplified their combined strengths. Utilizing the training he had amassed over the years, Kofi fought to protect Nia, his movements a blend of speed and precision. But it was Nia who finished each confrontation with bursts of energy, sending enemies reeling away from them. Kofi, to your left. Nia shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos as another rebel launched themselves toward him. He responded instinctively, sidestepping as he delivered a powerful kick, sending the rebel sprawling into the bulkhead. The ship shuddered, and Kofi felt the bond they shared surge, like a bright flare amid the darkness. Fighting side by side, Kofi and Nia pressed deeper into the heart of the conflict, refusing to yield to the escalating battle. Each clash brought them closer, every victory illuminating the possibility of true unity between their worlds. Just as they thought the tide was turning, a larger enemy vessel arrived, dwarfing the Valiant with its imposing size. They've brought reinforcements. Kofi cursed, heart pounding in his chest. Nia locked eyes with Kofi, a fierce determination solidifying between them. We can't back down now. Together, we can defy even the strongest of foes. With the weight of their hope resting on their shoulders, they merged their energies once more, ready to face the looming storm head-on. In that moment, Kofi knew they were not just fighting for their survival, but igniting the spark of a greater change that could reshape their worlds forever. The enemy vessel loomed large against the backdrop of space, its ominous form casting an even deeper shadow over the Valiant. Kofi and Nia stood resolute, adrenaline fueling their every movement. The chaos of their surroundings faded as they drew power from one another, a fusion of energy that felt inexhaustible. On my mark, we engage together, Kofi said, his heart racing. We can't afford to hesitate. With Nia at his side, they focused, pushing their combined energy into a surge that blanketed the Valiant. As the alarm screamed warnings and enemy fire rained down upon them, Kofi heard Nia's voice in his mind, steadying him. Together, Kofi. We are stronger together. As they launched their offensive, Kofi piloted the Valiant with renewed determination, darting through the enemy fire, dancing between the swirling rays of energy aimed at them. The explosions that erupted near their ship seemed futile against the protective barrier they had forged together. Now, Kofi shouted, initiating their counterattack. They unleashed a barrage of energy beams, targeting the enemy vessel's weapon systems first. The brilliance of their combined attack lit the vastness of space, a spectacle of hope cast against the dark fabric of chaos. With each pulse of energy, Kofi felt the connection deepening between them, a tether that went beyond the physical realm. They communicated through instinct, anticipating each move as if choreographed by the stars themselves. The first wave of their attack struck true, the enemy's armament flickering and destabilizing. Keep pushing, Nia urged, drawing from her own powers, a luminescent energy swirling around them as they plunged deeper into the fray. However, the enemy was relentless. From the depths of the larger vessel, reinforcements poured out like a tide of destruction. Kofi's heart raced, grappling with the enormity of their undertaking, but he could not afford doubt. Suddenly, a figure dressed in dark armor emerged from the smoke of battle, a commander of the rebel forces, a figure known for his ruthlessness. "You think unity can save you?" He laughed, a cruel sound echoing through the comms. "Fear will always reign supreme." Kofi felt rage churn within him, clenching his fists as he stood taller. "You underestimate strength born from understanding," he roared, as Nia stepped beside him resolute. The battle was fierce, but their defiance kindled an inner fire that illuminated the darkest corners of their world. As Kofi and Nia engaged the commander, they moved in tandem, swinging their energies like a dance, creating barriers and crashes of power that reverberated in the vacuum of space. Their confrontation morphed into a whirlwind, the air thick with intensity and purpose. Kofi slipped past the commander's defenses, his training taking over as he dodged a counterattack. In the same instance, Nia captured the rebellion commander in her luminous grip, energy spiraling around him, binding his movement. "I won't let you destroy our hope," Nia declared, her gaze fierce. In that pivotal moment, Kofi saw their future flash before him, the possibilities that lay waiting, the dawn of unity transforming their worlds. Drawing on that vision, he thrust forward to land a decisive blow, knocking the commander aside, rupturing the chains of violence that threatened their existence. With the commander subdued, their victory echoed beyond the battlefield. The remaining rebels faltered, their unity shattered by the power of understanding that Kofi and Nia embodied. As silence descended, the remnants of the enemy forces retreated, their chaotic energy dissipating like shadows under the rising sun. Kofi and Nia, panting but victorious, exchanged a glance that held all the unspoken promises of a future forged together. "We did it," Kofi breathed, his heart swelling with triumph and relief. Nia stepped closer, her warmth enveloping him. "We achieved what many thought impossible. Now, we must fight for that unity in our worlds," Kofi said, determination lining his features. "We have to bridge the gap that separates our people. This is only the beginning." As they made their way back to the Valiant, Kofi's comm system pinged with incoming messages from the fleet he had contacted. Together, they initiated contact, detailing the skirmish and how adversity had forged their bond into something powerful, a unity that could inspire hope for both the human and Xantha races. The connection between Kofi and Nia had become a catalyst, a new promise that radiated through their peoples. Diplomats from both sides listened, their hearts touched by the tale of valor and understanding shared between the two representatives, a tale of a bond birthed in adversity. As they stood together before a council of leaders, Kofi reached for Nia's hand, intertwining their fingers. "Let the stories we share inspire others. Fear will only bind us. Unity will set us free." In the weeks that followed, they worked to build bridges between their people, sharing their stories, planting seeds of change that took root, blossoming into a coalition forged in understanding. The battles fought in space became mere whispers, overshadowed by the spirits of their united communities, striving toward a shared future. Nia's warmth beside him became a foundation for everything he had ever hoped for, a beacon of hope lighting the way. Kofi looked out at the horizon, feeling a swell of optimism as the winds of change swept across their worlds. "This is the dawn of a new era," he declared, heart full with Nia at his side. Together, they stepped into that light, knowing they were not just champions of their own dreams, but the architects of intertwining destinies that could heal not just their hearts, but entire galaxies.